So, this is a little bit about attitude. Um, One of the things that I use the I Ching for is I will use it to adjust some sort of belief or some sort of attitude that I have. And it's almost like you're making little micro adjustments within yourself to your thought process, to your belief system, to your attitude. And it helps the flow, it helps the chi energy flow through you without being blocked. Um, it's hard to change your thought process or to change your habits if you're in a society which has a certain um, propensity towards certain ways of thinking. It can be very difficult, and if you're raised in a family structure or you're surrounded by a certain group of friends that thinks a certain way, it's hard to change yourself. It's hard to adjust your attitude and not feel like, or adjust, your life and not feel like you're just being contrary. And very often, narcissists will make you feel like anything that you do that is off the beaten path is you're being stubborn, you're being contrary, you're being a contrarian, or you are being lazy for not wanting to do what they want you to do, um, and all different things. Um, the best thing that they do, generally speaking, is to gaslight you, which is to make you feel that you are mentally ill or crazy. And what they're trying to do is get you to stop trusting yourself, and this destabilizes your center. And then when you're destabilized, it's like divide and conquer. They come in and they input their will, and after they destabilize your will, they come in and hijack your will and use it, make you into a form of supply, which is sort of like being somebody's slave. Um, it really is exactly like being somebody's slave, except you're not just a slave um, physically or because of labor, but you're a slave mentally and emotionally. So, what is it that makes adults act like babies and scream and cry when they don't get what they want? Why does that happen? Why did they never learn another system of coping with the frustration of not having what they wanted? And because, of course, as you'll note, even though they're willing to scream and cry to get what they want, they still don't get what they want. So this is really an issue that goes deeper than just um, somebody who is manipulative. They genuinely don't know how to get what they want from life, and of course, um, the beginning of this is in childhood. When you're a kid, a small child, and you cry and you complain to your parents, they will eventually figure it out. They will figure out how to help you, and they'll figure out how to get you what you want. Then you get what you want, you stop crying, life goes on. So as we move into adulthood, um, the problem is that we don't have that parental structure anymore, so that when we scream and we cry to get what we want, nobody cares. There's nobody there to say, oh, well, I have to take care of you, so I guess I'll give you what you want. And frequently, you keep screaming and crying and you keep not getting what you want, and you take it so far as to say, well, I guess I'll just kill myself because I'll just commit suicide because I just don't know how else to cope with all this situation where I can't figure out how to get past some sort of block or some sort of um, issue. So I was having this feeling this morning, and I just go to the I Ching, and I was adjusting my attitude a little bit. And what I found was that I was still functioning from this childhood narrative about if I just keep screaming and crying, then I'll eventually get what I want. And of course, I didn't. And not only that I didn't, but I didn't feel good about not having what I wanted. Um, and when I took to the I Ching, um, I realized that this is the problem that people have with manifesting. The reason that you can get into a zone, which is like a dead zone for manifestation, where you can't get over some sort of stumbling block and get to the next thing. And instead of doing that, you just keep crying, you keep complaining, you keep acting like a narcissist, you keep expecting other people around you to fill in the blanks with everything that you don't know how to figure out. And when they can't, you demand, you complain, you berate them, you guilt trip them, you gaslight them. And this is not good enough. So, as we get older, we have to find a new way of relating to this feeling of not being able to be confident, not being able to manifest, not being able to create what we want. And the way we do it is that there's a station or a still point of truth and humility that you have to cling to. And I use the I Ching to ferret out exactly what that is and how to do that. But just knowing that, I think, is going to help you. That there's truth, that you know, this is what I know to be the truth. And you cling to that. And you cling to your humility, which is your humanity, about the fact that you are willing to admit you're not perfect. Clinging to that is a way to calm yourself down. But then let's take it a step further. What is the correct attitude? If kicking and screaming, even to the point where I'm willing to kill myself just so people will feel sorry for me when I don't get what I want, if that's not the answer, then what is the answer? What is the right attitude to have? What is the go-to attitude when you can't get what you want? And the answer is this: to restrain your speech. The I Ching talks about restraining your speech. And what that means is, if you're ever in a class with, a school class, I mean, when you were younger, you notice that there are these really, really smart kids um, who never really said anything very much. They seem to be very introverted and shy, but they were always taking in information. They took in information, they processed it, and they always got good grades because they were so tuned in, listening to what was going on. And this is really the attitude that we need to have in order to manifest. Um, there's a great scene in the movie Mulholland Drive, which I constantly reference, with the cowboy, and the cowboy confronts the protagonist, who's a filmmaker, and is telling him, this is the way you have to do this film, or else you're not going to be able to do this film. And he's talking about basically the mafia, and the mafia stepping in and controlling this guy's filmmaking process because they controlled, the production costs and the money behind it. So the cowboy says, you have to adjust your attitude. If you adjust your attitude, you can ride in this buggy. I'm the driver of the buggy, but if you adjust your attitude, you can ride with me. And it's really a great analogy for all of life, for the universe. Our job is not to figure everything out. Our job is to adjust our attitude. What's the go-to attitude when you don't know what you're doing, when you can't figure out how to manifest? Instead of kicking, screaming, crying, wanting to kill yourself, that's the old narrative. That's the childhood narrative, trying to beg mom and dad to please figure it out for me. When mom and dad aren't there, this is the new software you have to input into your being. And the software is cling to truth and humility, restrain your speech, and take in information. Listen, take it in. Be one with the universe. Be a student of the universe. I find that I was really more like this when I was younger, and then something happened where, as I got older, I took on the attitudes of the culture and of what I was being taught, and I lost the ability to do this. But through the I Ching, now I'm readjusting and coming back to that place of innocence, and innocence is another part of this too, which I could make a whole nother video about. But for now, cling to the power of truth and humility, and into the silence of restraining your speech and listening to what the universe has to say, rather than focusing on the lack and demanding that the lack please go away.